I'm ready to go.
And you got a great shirt as well, again.
Yes, yes. Like I love showing up for my friends. So, what should I start us out with a story about what I'm wearing today?
Well, yeah, I'm supposed to be starting, but you just tell us about the shirt because I think it needs like a bit of a
It
yeah.
needs a little bit, a
Tell
little
us
bit.
because is this like another magic shirt?
Well, I don't know how magic it is, but it absolutely is special. It feels amazing. So, I'll hijack
Cool.
this. And I shared with everybody before, like that I absolutely love. You can see the emblem of the organization CISV right there. Found out about it in 2004, so forever ago, but it's still growing strong. And I don't know, since we've got an audience that listens from everywhere, people should maybe realize it's like a shameless plug that they didn't ask me to make. That CISV is an international organization, and
Yeah, I need to check it out.
Guatemala happens to be a country where I was just saying it's special to me because where at the school where I was principal last, a lot of my students and their families were from Guatemala. So I love those people, right? So in any case, I had the opportunity to host a program leader who came from Guatemala to the US to do a summer program here, and she got to stay in my house, and this is the gift that she gave me when we did dinner and breakfast and whatever for the day while she was traveling there, she and another leader. So that's why this shirt is special, but it's actually like a little bit of a joke because apparently in some places in Guatemala when you take the public transportation it can be a little bit crazy, and they call this, you can see it, the chicken bus.
Chicken
um,
balls.
because apparently they can be, I don't know if you can see the back okay, but apparently they can be a
Yeah.
little bit bumpy, crazy ride, kind of like, maybe you're at a theme park, except you're really just riding the bus and it's a
Oh, so
little
it's like
crazy.
chicken as in like, like
It's
vehicles
a
playing
little
chicken kind of
crazy,
thing.
maybe. I don't know. I think I have to go
Or
to
is it just
Guatemala.
because there's like chickens on the bus?
I think I got to go check it out. I'm not really sure, but I know it's called the chicken bus.
They need to go check it out. Come
In
back and
my
tell me.
mind, it's like maybe people are carrying chickens. Maybe the chickens just get on the bus, or maybe, like you said, the bus ride is like playing a game of chicken on the road. I don't know, but either
Yeah.
way, I just love culture and people from all kinds of different places. So, yeah, today's Guatemala Day.
Today is Guatemala Day.
Guatemala,
Wow. Okay, guys, let's get rolling. So, what we're going to do today, if
yes.
you tune in a bit later, we're going to give you a little bit of a, I was going to say framework. Yeah, just like a little way, a little, like a little strategy for dealing with what we call big frustration. Now, previously in episodes, we've actually talked about, I think, what we didn't call it at the time. We didn't call it that at the time, but we're going to call it that now because we're comparing it, and we're calling what we dealt with before kind of little frustrations, like your brother or your sister being a bit annoying, or that you have some, tricky homework, or you're in a maths class and finding it difficult to just, get it, and you're just getting a bit frustration. So these are frustrations which are not really going to impact you in the long term, in your life. It's just things that happen and a way of dealing with it, which we went through before. Maybe you go back and watch the episode, to find out how we deal with the little frustration. But yeah, we spoke about breathing, didn't we? Well,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and and that technique which we have available to us, that amazing part of our human body which we actually have incorporated in our lungs and our nervous system, and our ability to be able to use that to actually overcome, the feelings of the yucky feelings of frustration. It's quite amazing. It's built in to our to our body, our ability to be able to do that. And what we're going to talk about this week is just that really is the fundamental, like the basic building block of dealing with all frustration, be it big frustration or little frustration. It's just where we go with it afterwards that counts. So, yeah, Mo, just tell a little bit of a story to build some
Okay, I know you know.
context around this, and then we can talk about the framework.
Yeah, so what you just said is so good. First of all, I can think of a lot of stories, right? I've got my own personal stories where I've used that breathing to get myself together. And then what am I going to do about this? So I'm thinking a kid's story though. So I think by now everybody knows that I spent a lot of years in the classroom and in schools working with kids and families. And when I thought about all the different examples that I could share, then one comes to mind. I had a really sweet student one year when I was teaching kids in elementary school named Jaden, just a precious girl, kind of like a sweet personality, friendly to people, but not super outgoing, and a little bit shy, but just a delightful kid. Like, you know, even the pesky kids, I consider delightful kids, just delightfully different, right? But in any case, she was a really sweet personality. I can't imagine she had teachers that ever didn't love having her in the class. So imagine this girl who's, you know, pretty easygoing, friendly to everybody. And sometimes she would just have this like sullen look and be a little bit down, you know, just a little bit down. And I was always an investigator, like, what in the world is making these kids tick? And why is this one so sunny and happy? And oh my gosh, she's sad today. What's going on? What happened? If you need anything, let me know. How can I help? You can tell me, that sort of thing. So I'll just get straight to it and say that while she wasn't the most outgoing, right? Like I think a lot of kids can connect with that. You want to have a lot of friends, you want to be popular, you want to have all these things going on, but you can't quite figure out like, you know, why aren't the popular girls picking you, or why aren't the ones playing that ring game over there insisting that you come be a part of it? So she was always like to herself just a little bit, even though she was just this delightfully pleasant girl. And so I got to know her pretty well because when she wasn't, you know, running around with the rest of the kids, we would talk. But she was also the kind of kid that I noticed that didn't complain. And maybe for the folks who are listening right now, they can kind of think about that, right? Like you've experienced some things that are hard. Maybe people aren't being super nice to you or things aren't going your way, but you don't complain about it. Like you don't say anything, you just feel it, right? So sometimes I would see this sad look on Jaden's face and be curious about what was going on. And in one instance, I remember because she and I developed a relationship together and she did eventually share some little frustration that she felt. We came to this one situation, and I'm going to tell it in reverse. It turned out that people were stealing her lunch, that her father or mother, whoever it was that cared about her, was at home, knew that she was kind of sometimes having a tough time at school, and they were tucking these little sweet treats like chocolate covered strawberries, just a little something to like say, hey, I love you, you're special, into her lunch. And can you imagine coming to school over a long period of time and having somebody literally take from you, not once, like a little frustration, but every day, and being
Wow,
so
that's
stealthy,
mean.
like really mean. I think it was heartbreaking for me because she would just be so sad. Like, why is somebody doing this to me? And I mean, it was really weird because the person was going out of their way to do this to her, like finding a way to get into the classroom when no one would be looking and take the things from the lunch and, you know, all of this. She felt targeted. And I think the point that I want to make about this particular story is that when it happened, she didn't say anything. She felt bad. It happened again. She didn't say anything. She felt bad. But over time, it really started to build up. And she started to feel really horrible. Like when you're in a situation where you're bullied or picked on and you're conflicted, you're like, if I tell, then the people aren't going to like me because I'm going to be complaining and maybe they'll get in trouble. And, you know, how do I deal with this? So she was stuck for a while in this space that just feels awful. And I think probably affected how she was performing on her schoolwork because she's just in this yucky space like all the time, because she was keeping it to herself and just feeling frustrated with it. And she was going home. I've had this experience and saying to mom and dad, this bad thing happened at school, but don't say anything about it. right? Don't do anything about it. Like, don't change it because they're not going to like me or I'm going to get in trouble. Well, I guess eventually at some point it got to the place where um, one day she was crying, just noticeably so upset, so broken about whatever was this special thing inside of her lunch that had been taken for the umpteenth time. And I noticed, right? So I hadn't missed it. I became aware that something bad was going on and I forced her to tell me what's happening, right? Um, and the fact of the matter is that it wasn't easy, but we were eventually able to figure out who it was and stop it from happening, right? Like we were able to intervene and help because she became willing to tell me what was going on. And by the end of that school year, we had done a Sunny repair because the person who was making that wrong choice, we were able to help them learn and do better. And obviously, her situation improved. Like she didn't have to feel like the person who was the victim, the target, picked on over and over again, day after day after day. And I like the reference to this story based on what you were talking about, that sometimes you can just take a couple of deep breaths and get through a moment. But in this case, it was almost like a saga. And taking a couple of deep breaths every day, it would be difficult. It would have been difficult for her to um, get over it, right? Like you, so I feel like this is a good, hopefully a good example of sometimes we encounter the kinds of things that can be really tough to get through. And just taking deep breaths and calming down in the moment doesn't necessarily work, because she and I had done that at times where there was little frustration, but this was an exceptional event. And mind you, it's pretty low key. There are some crazier things going on in the world right now. Sometimes we have conflicts around us, or there are political things. I just use this school example because I think a lot of kids can relate. Either they've experienced it or they've seen where sometimes we can have ongoing challenges, right? That aren't easy to just get over in one moment.
Mm.
And this is an example. And I don't know if you feel like this story helps, but I hope there's something there that you can use as an example to share perhaps some suggestions for what kids can do when they're experiencing bigger, more, kind of like longer or harder frustrations.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, yeah, it's very important to just kind of like point that out, that yeah, it was just kind of like over a long period of time. Um, and yeah, these things kind of like build and escalate, and yeah, it's if we just kind of breathe out, yeah, it temporarily gets rid of the frustration, the yucky feelings. But if the same thing keeps happening to you again and again, then we have to deal with it. And like you said, a lot of the time, or like you were showing, a lot of the time, again, we're going back to what our brains are telling us. What's going to happen? Oh, people aren't going to like me anymore. If I bring up what's going on, then it's going to make an even bigger mess, because now people are going to start fighting, and they like him or her better than me anyway, and everybody's going to be on their side, nobody's going to be on my side, etc., etc., etc. Your brain will make up these. I know. I've seen this. I've seen this in kids. I've heard stories from parents, and I know, you know, that's what happens. And yeah, it's difficult because you're there, you're the one, and dealing with, or not dealing with, the what's going on a daily basis. And it's so easy to start creating these stories in our brains about what will happen if we actually do something about it. But yeah, the framework that I'd like to share is just very, very simple, in knowing that we've just got three options really in every single situation that we come up against. What we are recommending, which is always a good technique, is before doing anything, always is just to breathe, and get down out of our head and not react under that frustration. Because once that frustrating feeling starts coming up, if we start acting from that feeling, it's not going to be good.
It
It's
might be a
never
little.
good. We either get into an argument or, a fight or something, something bad's going to happen. And being able to take that step back, catching that frustration, being able to recognize it, taking that step back and just taking, we were talking about 3 deep breaths, helps us just to be able to get down out of our head and just be able to, just be in a better place for making some better decisions really for ourselves. And the 3 types of decisions that we can make are, the first one is we can just ignore it, and this is usually a good tactic if we're just talking about small frustrations, of things that we're just trying to get through, circumstances. We talked about a math problem, we talked about, our brother or sister being a bit annoying. And instead of acting out of that frustration, just breathe, ignore it, walk out of the space, just do what you have to do to remove yourself from the situation so you don't act from that frustration and escalate the whole matter into just making a mountain out of a molehill. So the first one is just ignoring it. The second one is doing something. And that doing something, can look like having a conversation with the person of what's happening, having a conversation with, the people who are around you to perhaps, get a little bit of advice from them about maybe what you should do. So the do something part of it, and we found this a lot, just in exactly what you were talking about before, Monique, when your pupil Jaden actually ended up, in the end, being kind of forced to do something about it because the situation just got so out of hand, and it was just, being so painful and upsetting that she had to do something about it. You know, it very often comes out with a lot better result than what we could possibly have imagined. So ignore it, do something about it. Or the third one, which I kind of alluded into, which can go into the do something part of it as well, is just putting your hand up and asking for help. And all 3 of those are equally as valid. And it completely depends on you as to how, you're the one who's in the situation, and you're the one who needs to make that decision as to which of those 3 paths you are going to take. No, I mean, not not doing something is, ignoring the problem when we're talking about big frustrations, quite often not is not going to give you the best outcome. So yeah, Monique, talk to us. Talk to us about what you think about the
I
framework,
love
and
it.
maybe.
And I'm like, okay. So I'm like being polite and crossing my hands over here. What I just realized, Simon, and this is completely off track, but it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Because the 3 options that you just gave us when we experience frustration, especially frustration that crosses over into the big frustration, I want to just give everybody a challenge, and then I'm going to name it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'll name it last. All right. So we are going to get out of our head and all this anxiety, the fear, the worry about what might happen if, and why we can't, and whatever it is that we're feeling when we're in these moments of big frustration, with those breaths that you just said. Okay. So everyone is challenged because we experience frustration every day. On our best days,
Yep.
we all experience frustrations. And sometimes we're living through a time in our life where I don't know, for me, it was the second course in algebra in high school. Every day was big frustration. Every day I needed to attend a tutorial. Every day I was looking in the face at, oh, I got a question wrong on the quiz again. I mean, it wasn't something that I could just breathe my way out of. It was tough, tough, tough. So, what you just suggested about these 3 steps, we can choose to ignore it, breathe, and decide, right? Like, this is what I want to challenge everybody to do. Take the breath and decide which way you're going to go. Are you going to, number 1, ignore? Are you going to take matters into your own hands? You're going to do something that is in your power to do on your own. You're going to do something about it. Or you're going to, like Simon said, raise your hand and ask for help. Okay. So this week, everybody, when you encounter big frustration, probably your big frustration is in your mind right now when I keep referencing it, right? Like, you know what it is that's frustrating you at this moment. You can even plan. And I love to decide ahead of time how I want to behave in a situation, because it can be pretty tough to make the decision that you want in the moment. So breathe and then do what you pre-decided if you've got your frustration in your mind right now. But you're going to take the challenge this week. And of course, visit us on the Inspiration Station to tell us about how or whether you chose to ignore, to do something, or to ask for help. So simple. And I want to name this framework without Simon's permission for my Harold great-grandmother, because it's the acronym for her name, IDA. Ignore, do something, or ask for help, right? My great-grandma was Ida, and literally like a beautiful champion of things can be hard. And I won't tell everybody all of her story, but
Wow.
literally like the picture of this. Some things you don't even give your attention to, you just ignore it. Other things, you do something about it. And I can think of what I know about her and her life, that there were many examples like this. And other times you need help. And so you ask for it. Okay. So, guys, the challenge is so simple. Share with us. But we're not just the nosy guys who want to know everything that's going on in your life. If you haven't figured it out, our Inspiration Station is a place where we can go and see the examples of strength from our peers, people around the world who, yeah, they're having challenges, they're experiencing frustration, but they're being triumphant in that. They're finding a way to get through. They're choosing the attitude that they want to have, and the things that they want to do with their life and in their world. So this Inspiration Station and this challenge, we're inviting you to share your example. So when you visit to leave a post, check out somebody else's post and maybe leave a comment or an encouragement or, you know, some type of response, because there are going to be some great examples, a growing number of examples in that space. So I don't know, Simon, do you think that that's a pretty good way for them to do the challenge?
Yeah. I'm just loving all of this.
Everybody try out the IDA this week. Like,
I
try.
love how the great grandma just crept in
Oh
there.
gosh, like,
I know
oh
how much you love and appreciate that amazing woman.
yeah, so
And
crazy.
yeah, I love how she just crept in there. That
He
was pretty
literally did.
cool.
I was looking at the 3 letters thinking, what? You gotta be kidding me. Yeah. So
Wow.
for me, that's the way I'm teaching it from now on.
Yeah, the IDA framework. I
Yeah,
love it.
100%.
And yeah,
You can
guys,
borrow it. I'll share it with you.
that's why it's called the Inspiration Station, because we can get on there and we can give each other inspiration. Now, when we were talking about taking the 3 deep breaths and getting out of our head, it takes us to a more creative space to come up with ideas and solutions to our problems. And it might not make sense to you what comes up for you at the side, but just go with it, guys. You all know how to do that. You all know how just to, follow what you think is right. Yeah. So yeah, get onto the inspiration station, share some stories, and let's start inspiring each other. Yeah. So guys, that's it. Wrapping up for this week. And yeah, just remember, you're amazing, guys. You got this.
You absolutely do. And I'll just chime in with a phrase that we hope that you will start to hear when you're by yourself in moments that you need to remember your friends, Simon and Monique, that you're so bold and brave.